Hey guys, today I'll tell you about the success of Pixar, the one we owe for all those animated movies many of us absolutely love. Together we'll find out how one boy came up with the revolutionary idea, why did Steve Jobs get involved, and how on earth Disney took advantage of this and now owns Pixar. Pixar's story started off with a dream. Young Edwin Cutmell wanted to work for Disney as a cartoonist, but there was a potential deal breaker. He couldn't draw. Will you think Edwin gave up? No, actually he had this crazy idea that in the foreseen future people would use computers to create full-length animated feature movies. And do not get me wrong, we are now talking about the 70s. This is what computers looked like then, and his idea was considered impossible at that time because it would take years for the hardware to meet all the requirements for it. The thing is, Cutmell studied physics and computer science, so he decided to give his idea a try himself. He digitized his own left hand. To make it happen, he covered it with a plaster to make a cast, then made a plaster model out of it and used ink to draw a network of 350 small triangles and polygons. Imagine how long it took him! Once ready, he entered all coordinates of each corner of the polygon into his computer and created his own 3D animation program to make his digital hand move around. Bear in mind that there was not enough power to display the whole picture at once. Cutmell had to shoot the footage with a camera set at long exposure and then speed it up to shoot it on a video camera. A minute-long video turned out mind-blowing for that time. His digital hand turned, his palm closed and opened up, and most amazingly, the viewer could find himself inside Cutmell's palm looking around. Well, that's a little weird. Anyway, an incredible achievement, yet Cutmell had absolutely no idea what to do with it. Picture this, you come up with something extraordinary for the whole industry, whatever it would be, and yet no one runs after you, no one offers you any appreciation, nor anyone gives you a job within the industry. Frustrating, right? As if your achievement is worth nothing. The same thing happened here. Cutmell's every job application was turned down, and he ultimately had to accept the only offer, a programmer job to illustrate primitive two-dimension drawings. He was a 29-year-old frustrated man, yet he was not the only one dreaming about computer animation, so he didn't stay at that boring job for long. But you wonder what happened to his dream about Disney. Well, keep in mind that Disney owns Pixar today, but back in the 70s, the company was not interested in computer animation whatsoever. Every cartoon took years for the company, and it was okay for them. Every second was 12 drawn-in pictures, and it didn't bother Disney at all. Keep this in mind, and I'll tell you all about it a little later. As I was saying, the man behind Pixar's success was actually Steve Jobs, but he was not the first one to believe in Cutmell's abilities and this crazy idea of his to make computers animate movies. There was also Alexander Schur, a successful entrepreneur and founder of the New York Institute of Technology, and part-time owner of a small traditional animation studio. When Schur realized that computers could save him a lot of money because, as we remember, cartoons were about expensive manual labor, Schur hired Cutmell to lead the team of the so-called Computer Animation Research Laboratory. Schur invested around $15 million, providing the team with everything they wanted. But despite it all, investments, interest, and expertise, the first 2D movie, To Be the Tuba, miserably failed. It was, and I quote, dead boring. Later, Schur's lab started working on an experimental film that could have been the first computer-generated 3D movie. But it was not finished because Cutmell and 6 more teammates left Alexander and joined Lucasfilm in 1979. Yes, they ditched Schur because Lucasfilm had something they lacked: the ability to tell a story via film. I feel bad for Schur, but Cutmell and his team knew what they wanted and went for it. One way or another, the graphics group, which, by the way, would later become Pixar, was founded by George Lucas, though at first it was a part of the computer division led by Cutmell. As for the history of other key people, and believe me, there were plenty, but I want to tell you about one of them in particular. John Lasseter was hired by the Lucasfilm team in late 1983 as an interface designer. Lasseter worked as janitor at Disney theme park and later became a junior artist at Disney Studio. He was fired for his irrepressible desire to promote computer animation. Can you believe this? Even though he was the animator of the short film The Adventures of Andre and Wallaby, this was the first time people saw complex, flexible characters, hand-painted textures, and motion blur. It was the 80s. The processor power was simply not enough for more. Yet, it was kind of a breakthrough. and the first bright example of computer animation of characters. And this bright man joined the dream team. Good for them. Okay, so now let's talk about Steve Jobs and how the hell he was involved in all of this, right? Catmull's graphic group unveiled their prototype Pixar image computer to the public in 1986. It was a machine with more processing power capable of producing high-resolution images. You see what the guys did here? They couldn't produce 3D movies because there was no technology at that time, so they invented their own instead. But when the team was looking for investors, no one seemed interested. 35 venture capitalists and 10 large corporations rejected them, and the only offer they received was from no one else but Steve Jobs. You wonder why Steve Jobs? Well, in short, Jobs was kicked out of Apple in 1985. So at that time of the deal with the Pixar team, he was the founder and CEO of his new computer company, Next. All in all, Steve Jobs paid $5 million from his own funds, buying the rights to Pixar image computer technology from Lucasfilm and joining the board of directors as chairman. The new company was named Pixar Incorporated. It would be true to say that Jobs saw an opportunity in computer technology. The company was not about animated movies yet. But when 3 months later, PIC became commercially available, it failed in sales. Its market was awfully small, and the price of $170,000, which is equivalent to $475,000 today, was crazy. I mean, it is the price of a house, or a car, or even both. No wonder that sales were low. The company wasn't making any profit. Jobs increased his investment to $50 million to keep the company afloat. In 4 years, Pixar sold less than 300 computers. Interesting fact, one was sold to the Walt Disney Studio, so the company was finally moving towards computer animation, whereas the Pixar team had to admit its failure. It stopped developing hardware and sold its technology for $2 million to a company that was the first to deliver non-disruptive wire-speed data services. Now Pixar team focused back on animation using this technology and expertise. Interestingly, Steve Jobs continued to financially invest in talented guys for the next 10 years, although it was not for the revolutionary technology now, but because of the people, Catmull's team. Jobs was not wrong. In 1986, Lasseter released the team's first computer animated short movie, and it was nominated for an Academy Award. This success was followed by the Teen Toy. As you can see, it's not the most appealing picture to us now, but just imagine for a second that is the first movie you see that was not hand-drawn. Would you be impressed by those soft shadows, highlights, and textures? Well, after the success of the first animated shorts, Pixar began to think that it was time for the first full-length computer animated film. And here's the time for our third ingredient. When Pixar moved to California in 1990, it strengthened its relationship with Disney, which eventually became its most important partner. A year later, Walt Disney Feature Animation agreed to finance Pixar production of a feature-length animated film for commercial release under a very tight contract. Steve Jobs helped Pixar secure a historic $26 million deal to produce 3 feature-length CGI films, the first of which was to be Toy Story. This was an unexpected turn of events, given that previously Disney had no interest in using 3D animation for movies at all. I suggest you have a look at the story of Disney and its founder. You would love it, because after Walt Disney passed away in 1966, Disney Animation and the company as a whole fell into kind of hibernation. Portraits of Walt Disney were everywhere, in the halls, offices, and foyers, but his genius was sorely lacking. So it took a while before the company decided to move forward with progress, and in this case, computer animation. And even then, the company played safe. It used Pixar to test out a new concept and see the audience reaction. Pixar, on the other hand, was still losing money, and Steve Jobs, as chairman of the board and full owner, often considered selling it to other companies. Yet, he hoped for their best counting on the success of the Toy Story, and he was right. The Toy Story, released in 1995, was a bombshell in the animation world, grossing over $373 million worldwide, allowing Pixar Animation Studios to make its initial IPO in November 1995. After the first day of trading, Pixar closed at $39 per share for a total valuation of $1.5 billion. This success was followed by more movies and tremendous sales, and while Disney was making a fortune from movie rentals, Pixar was losing all its licensing revenue due to the terms of its contract with Disney. Steve Jobs tried to negotiate better terms in 2002, but then Disney CEO Michael Eisner disagreed. Obviously, their relationship became tense. all business publications discussed what would happen to the Walt Disney Company. You heard it all right. Everyone worried for Disney because at that time, the company needed Pixar more than it was needed by Pixar. At the end of the day, Pixar movies made up 45% of all profits, and its target audience seemed to trust the Pixar brand more than the Disney brand. So, this all kind of forced Disney to beg for another agreement whereby Pixar had a 50% share of the profits and rights to continue the franchise, while Disney retained the rights to the characters and distribution. Yet, a year later, a new CEO at Disney took over as chairman and bought Pixar in full for $7.4 billion. This was probably the wisest of decisions to support Disney Animation by acquiring the brand along with a complete team. Walt Disney Studios now owns Pixar since 2006. Pixar was founded 37 years ago, not as a computer animation studio, but as a computer company that was not even destined to survive to this day. Many talented people took part in the development of the company, but personally, I'm most impressed by Steve Jobs, as some reckless investor who seemed to make an absolutely bad deal, giving Lucasfilm technical department $5 million and continuing to invest in a dubious enterprise for so many years. John Lasseter, the one I told you about before, once said, "During the first 10 years, we lost a lot of money, a lot of Steve's money, and he had to spend 10 times as much to keep the company afloat. Not many investors in Steve's place would have shown so much patience." Edwin Catmull somehow prophetically predicted the onset of the era of computer animated movies, and Catmull managed to build up this incredible team to lead. So, in my opinion, the 3D revolution animation was largely his merit. And yet, Pixar's history was far from predetermined. This story is about how small deeds done with integrity lead to great victories. Catmull created the first 3D animation, but couldn't find a job. John Lasseter was fired from Walt Disney. Steve Jobs suffered pain and humiliation when he, the co-founder of Apple Computer, was fired from his own company. And Walt Disney Company struggled after the loss of the most influential persona in its history. So, it's true to say that their failures in a way structured their journeys to grandiose achievements. Keep up learning, guys. Success is just the number of attempts.